You're listening to Conversationality, a biweekly show brought to you by Optionality, your community exploring the now of work. Hi, happy Thursday. Jory Desjardins here. And with me is Elisa Page.
Happy 2025, because I believe this is our first one of 2025, correct?
Correct.
Because I had the big bad COVID for the very first time.
The big C.
Just in the new year. So that was unexpected. I really thought I was going to make it to the 5-year mark. I was like counting on deciding that I had super genetics and obviously an incredibly strong immune system, but apparently not. I let my guard down, man.
Well, it was interesting because we were having all of these conversations around restoration and rejuvenation and new starts, and then you get a little kick in the gut around COVID, which I think is still on point with what we wanted to talk about this week around. It's kind of like taking the good and the bad and still rolling with it, right?
Yeah.
This is a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really interesting year. I guess, I was looking, I think today is the 23rd. I don't know how I noticed this. Oh, because I have one of those, one of our members, Danielle Wiley, turned me on to this 5-year, 1 line a day journals that it's a little book and has a page for a day, like January 1st, but it has it for 5 years. And, there's a little bit of space. It's a little more than 1 line. And you just write a little something at the end of the day. And then the next year you start the book over. And when I wrote in, I think when I turned the page to be ready for today, I saw that January 23rd, today, was exactly 1 year since we launched Optionality on LinkedIn. So we had previously had some pre-seeded folks. We got in there to kind of mess around with it, a little beta trial, but January 23rd was the day that we publicly said, here's what we're up to. So it's very, it wasn't planned that we would have this conversation on the 1-year anniversary, but there you are. And, it's interesting because I think we learned some great stuff in 2024, and we're trying to think about how we're going to adapt for 2025. But also, by talking about this topic so much, I think it really makes you think. Oh, thank you, Lauren. She says, congratulations. By talking about this topic so much on behalf of our community, I think it you can't help but be steeped in thinking about your own, and as an individual, also thinking about, like, am I doing what I want to do? Am I on my purpose? Am I, do I have the right mix, as our advisor, Christina Wallace, will call it, in my portfolio life? Do I have the pie allocated properly? And I think working on Optionality for a year with a lot of people asking these same questions, you can't help but think about that for not just Optionality, but for ourselves as individuals.
We used to have this very cheesy statement that we said with our last company where we were, and it's in the tradition of the guy who ran the hair club for men. He's not just the president, he's also a member. And it totally holds true for us with Optionality, is that we're not here from on high telling you how to make changes for your career and your life. We're struggling with it every day. And for me, that was the big aha, is that I got to the end of the year, a year of workshops, a year of talking to people about, oh, here's how I do fractional, and here's how I've changed my mix, and realizing that I've actually had some challenges, right? And hopefully I can share what didn't work, and that can be just as effective and useful and helpful. And just know, like, we're also trying to figure this out. We're getting smarter. There's no question about it. I feel like collectively we've been getting smarter. I've gotten so many great bits of advice. I signed up for Connie Juan's her habit forming class, master class, available to our members. I have joined a group to keep me accountable for some of the things that I say I am going to do. I'm excited about that for platform building. I am saying no to certain things that I just wouldn't have said no to before because I just didn't know how to say no. And I've been digging into why I've been saying yes all the time. Something that I know we're going to talk about. We have a book group, and this month, the book that we're looking at is all about anxiety, Martha Beck's latest book. And there's a lot that plays into that. I think that, the yes habit plays into anxiety about the future and just saying yes to everything so you can sort it out later until it makes you crazy in the present.
Yeah. I used to have a thing I'd say that I follow the yes until the no becomes clear, which kind of indicated to me that I'm always interested in conversation. I'm always interested in, well, what are you talking about? Like, because so many people approach you and you like it. I think as a species, we may not be great at being just super saying what we mean. And I was just reading I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you remember OG blogger Cecily Kellogg. So
Of course.
she was diagnosed, I think ADHD, maybe on the ASD, I'm not sure, autism spectrum disorder, but I should know that because I just read one of her newsletter posts. And she was talking about being diagnosed in her 50s, I think, being diagnosed while she's perimenopausal and like all that's going on too.
Mm,
And
yeah.
and how it makes you rethink how you've engaged with people. And something I've heard from a lot of people I know who are neurospicy, as some call it, is that
I
in
like that term.
acting, yeah, I do too. In acting, there's this idea of subtext, which is that you are what you are saying in your dialogue, that underneath you have what you're really feeling. And the assumption is, in the most realistic theater, is that people in general are not good at just saying what they mean. To the point that the whole genre of absurdist theater, which is like Harold Pinter and Ionesco, those kind of people, the whole point when you're learning how to perform absurdist theater, it really gets drummed into you that there's no subtext. It's just text is subtext. To the point when if you do a Pinter play, it's famous for these Pinter pauses. And he writes in these pauses, right? And if you do a play or a scene like that, the point of the pause is not to have subtext. You literally just stop. And the point is that every audience member is filling that pause themselves with what their subtext would be. And that's what's really interesting and different and differentiated about absurdist theater. So, she was making a point in a post she wrote is that she just says things really directly. She doesn't have ulterior motives or agendas. Like she just says what she thinks, but that people receive it wondering what the subtext is, right? So I think as a species, we're not always great at saying directly, here's what I want and why I want it. And so I'm often like, oh, I'll say yes to a conversation. I'll say yes to this, yes to that. And then excuse me. And then, eventually some things you're like, oh yeah, no, this isn't really for me, and then there's Shonda Rhimes' whole book, The Year of Yes, where she was just saying yes to everything. And so there's these two competing things, right? Which is leave yourself open to the possibilities. Don't shut doors before you have to. Say yes and go on an adventure. And then there's the no is a complete sentence. Know your
Yeah.
boundaries. So I really am kind of stuck between those two because I think I used to be much more of a just say yes, see what happens, try one more time, do one more thing. And that's worked out for me in my life a lot, but not always. And then this idea of, but actually I need to protect my peace. I need to preserve my boundaries. I need to get better at the saying of no. Not because I think I'm such a people pleaser, but because I think, ooh, what am I missing out on? What could be just down the road there that would be, I think it's like a searching thing. And so a lot of our conversations in optionality are about yes, but how do you at least narrow down what you're searching for so you can know more quickly. Oh yeah, this is in the thing that's within my search, the search terms I'm going for. This actually fits versus this doesn't. Does that make sense to you?
It totally makes sense. And I'll tell you what it reminds me of. So I wrote a piece for Optionality about my visit from a psychic, which
Oh
didn't go
yeah.
so well, and about being better. But I did understand, and what I could take away from that experience is that I don't have intuitive powers. How do you know when something is right, or if you're getting a voice, or like I can't do it? And it inspired a friend of mine to invite me for a meditation, because part of what she is learning to do is read her own through Reiki and through meditation, how to understand her own impulses and intuition. So she did a guided meditation with me,
Mm.
and she literally couched it this way. She said, "Hey, I read your piece. Let me help you get to your hell yes." And I was like, I can't say no to that. Like, okay. So went to her house this week. We met up and we did a meditation. And I think her point to me was like, by the way, this isn't magic. I'm not like more or less intuitive. I just understand that we all are intuitive. And what the whole exercise was meant to do was to help me clear the way, clear ego out of the way, and all those other things that kind of get in, like the FOMO and all that. Get very clear on what it is that I truly want and what that feels like in my body. So the point is, when you get there and you know what it feels like, when you have an experience and you have that opportunity again and you get that feeling, you know that it comes from your more intuitive side, not from the ego, not from the all the other things that impact, right? Your anxiety. Oh, I should say yes to this because it's a job and it's revenue. Great, I'll take it, but it may not be right. And you know that. So now you've separated out like, well, ego is saying yes, but intuition is saying no, and to sort it. And I thought it was a gift, something that I'm going to be homing in on in 2025.
I have to say that would not be my strong suit, like thinking about how how things really, when you use that word embodied, I'm like, I don't really relate to that at all. Like thinking about how something feels in my body as a evidence of what I should be respecting about, what I really want or need. So that's very interesting. I'll have to think about that, how I can try to maybe develop that. It's so it's just been really educational for us, I think. The other thing I'm thinking about, and I'm really struggling with this lately, and it applies to both personally and for optionality. Sorry. One of the things I think I really felt when we launched it is that we didn't want to like launch a destination site. BlogHer was kind of based on the concept that destination sites were dead. And it was really about building these communities across the internet and connecting them together.
Yeah.
But I think that went through cycles. There was a cycle when that was the hot thing to do. And there was a cycle when they're like, but is that your owned and operated media, as opposed to your federated kind of like, you're
Yes.
creating this. So we went through that, but I still have that philosophy of, I don't know if you really need a destination site. Then then your whole life is about driving traffic to it. And that's like one of the most boring things ever, right? So when we started, I was like, well, let's leverage some tools that already exist, like Substack, obviously, and Slack and Zoom. And all of these things exist. People use them. Not everybody uses every tool, but if you're in Substack, you know that they have an app that kind of emulates an RSS reader. They have a network effect that they are actually promising more than I'm feeling that we're experiencing it. And Slack, of course, a lot of people already have I have 5 or 6 different Slacks in my little drawer of Slack. So I'm like, let's just try to, these are tools people are using. Let's just try to be a part of that. But I think we've really learned, we're exploring, do we actually move at least some of what we do off of some of these platforms? And one of the reasons is mindset about how people think about what they're in a platform for. And Substack in particular, I think people think that if you go upgrade to premium on Substack, you're upgrading to a little more special content, but they're not really thinking about, I mean, most of our premium offering is not happening in Substack. It's happening in the Slack. It's happening in regular convenings online, and we've started in real life too. And it's just the mindset is not, and Substack doesn't give you a lot of real estate to describe what you're offering with your premium upgrade. So that's made me rethink a little bit, like mindset still matters, what people expect when they're in a particular platform versus what you're giving them. If it's a mismatch from what everybody else does or what people usually do, it still gives it like a little record scratch moment. Yeah. And, there's just a limit to the value of using these other platforms. So we're looking into other things, and probably some change will come in this year, 2025. But also mindset makes me think about social media as a marketing channel, because I used to run our research for Blogger, and I did a lot of research on social media usage. And I always used to say that, every social platform, people really have a different mindset when you go to that platform. Twitter's like a cocktail party, Facebook's like your living room, Instagram's like a gallery, whatever, that you wanted to match the vibe that you were walking into. And I don't know if that's true anymore. I feel like some of these platforms have lost their differentiation, including LinkedIn, like that they are mostly content from people I don't know and ads that are kind of half and half, relevant, not relevant. Like the algorithm has smoothed out the differences between these tools. And yet, if you go to Blue Sky, which I'm trying to like more and trying to use more, there's no algorithm. And I'm like, hey, I've been in these social web streets for 20 years. The idea of building back all the people, finding all the people I followed and building back that is very tiring to me. So I'm like, what good are these channels for anymore? I don't think it's like it used to be. So, and I know we've talked about that, but I'm curious your perspective on this issue of have we smoothed out the difference between these platforms?
Well, I have lost a lot of faith in platforms. I'll say that. In many ways, I feel like we've kind of come back full circle to, hey, here's my website. And so the last 7-8 years, I've been working with companies that are looking to scale really quickly. And while in some cases community is a beautiful thing, let's build it for you, most times they just want customers and they need to get sales. And I've had to get pretty good at knowing how to get to that faster, whether it's through community or whether it's about gaming the system in SEO and trying to figure out algorithmically how to get seen. And it usually requires a good amount of budget. So I think there is a huge gamification of this, no matter what. But more and more companies who are putting money in are making their own media because they have more control over it and leveraging social media to drive to these destinations. It's not the other way around. It's not fully distributed. And these are companies that are not media companies. They just need to get customers more aware of what they do and to promote their thought leadership. That hasn't changed. Thought leadership is still going to sell over, here, let me talk about my product all day long and hope that you will listen. It's more about, finding information that you need when you need it. And more that's happening on a destination. So on that level, I think it's more of a 360. I do also think though that, and Elisa knows I've had my own frustrations with LinkedIn. Hi, we're here. I think that there was a time where LinkedIn and so much of its effectiveness was because you could see the information you needed to see. And I do think less and less, I don't see people that I know I'm following, right? And that I know are following me. I know that when I share things from Optionality, it's off-site, so I get dinged. I know that when there's a finger on the scale algorithmically, and that's frustrating. I also know it's a business. And this is where things are going. And so in this new reality, it kind of pushes, it changes the balance back to, it's all about your destination. If you want people to do things a certain way and they really, really get that information, it's your destination. And really the socials are just there to kind of have a little outpost to say hello.
I
And
should add that, like, I just don't know if it's possible anymore to grow. I see a lot of pitches because I'm an Astia advisor, and I every week join a call to get a couple of pitches, um, and it's still pretty common that a company will say, "Oh, and we just really haven't done any marketing. We've achieved this without any marketing." And I'm sure Blogger used to say, something similar, basically that, we called our conferences basically a profitable marketing tool, and we didn't advertise. That's what we meant. We weren't advertising anymore or anywhere. And I feel like to get the if you want to find attention and awareness on social media today, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, if you're still there, you must pay. You must pay. And there is no more organic growth for if you are marketing something. Like, because all the stuff you were saying about, how to grow things quickly and all of that. I mean, you were talking about B2B, right?
yes.
Yeah. So like, I feel there is no more like organic scale. They want you to pay, and the reason they're dinging you is because they want you to pay. I'm really curious. I don't know if they break it out. I'd be curious to know how much of LinkedIn's revenue is from premium membership. So I'm a premium member. I pay every month to be a premium member of LinkedIn, and how much of it is from advertising. I'd be really curious how those numbers. If I had been really curious enough, I guess I would have researched it before we got on this call, but I did not.
Well,
but I'm curious.
Okay, I didn't ask that exact question, but I
Yeah,
have been in front of many a LinkedIn advisor, asking
yeah.
them, so just tell me up front, is this all games? Like, what do I need to pay for? And I didn't get a straight answer, which makes me think that paying has something to do with it.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Paying has something to do with it.
So I feel like figuring out. I just feel like maybe considering we're not looking to like scale to like Blogger scaled, that it's got to be a more human to human, outreach and conversation, especially because we're a community, right? So that's still, how do you prove to someone your community that they want to join? I don't think you're going to do it through a paid ad. You're going to do it through conversation. And it's, that's fine. But at the same time, there's all this stuff going on, which philosophically is making me think about, where do I want to spend my time? Where do I want to give my attention? Because that's how these companies are monetizing basically our attention. And I'm like one persona online. I don't try to be different people in different places. So there's just a lot going on personally and politically where I'm like, who do I want to give my money to and my attention to and my data to and all of that stuff. And I'm not excited about being in platforms that won't fact check. I'm not excited about platforms that say, hey, free speech includes, Nazis and hate speech. So I don't know. I feel very like that this is a seminal year for figuring out where I want to be and how to get what I want from these places. And the other thing I realized, so I had someone on Blue Sky. I've been there for over a year and I wasn't very active there and didn't have very many followers. And I just really didn't get it. I wasn't liking it. And then obviously there's been some exodus from Threads, from Twitter. So tons of people are joining. And so I must have been added to some starter pack, which is their version of a suggested user list, but users can make their own. So I started getting just tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of followers. So I posted something saying, oh, wow, I can't really stay on top of this like I normally would. But if you or like or share or comment, I will be able to check you out and follow you back. And I promise I will. And someone said to me, oh, so why would you even think that's an expectation that when I follow you, I need you to follow me back? And I was completely like, And then I just said, I'm just, I guess, an old school social media person where that was the thing you did. Like you wanted to, like someone follows you, you want to hopefully follow them back. And then you have this bi-directional.
Oh,
And I think that changed years ago and I
yeah.
just missed
Like
it.
that ship
There
has
were no,
sailed, at least on
yeah,
LinkedIn, right? Where everyone and their
yeah.
mothers like, "Hi, give me
So now
money.
there's creators and consumers, and we don't
Follow
expect it
me."
to be, yeah. We don't expect like the creators and consumers, we don't expect it to be like reciprocal.
Yes,
And I really felt old. This was yesterday. I was like, oh my God, I'm old school.
you reciprocate.
Yeah,
Shame.
exactly.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with it, by the way. Let's not feel bad about ourselves for
No.
reciprocating,
Oh,
right?
that's,
Because if they
I
follow
guess,
you, chances are you do have a, something
yeah,
to share. So, um, the other thing, Elisa, and I know we're getting up to the bottom of our half hour. When we first set up conversationality, we set it up to riff because we do
yeah,
this anyway, but now you get to watch us do this. Um, but we also agreed that we're not going to go off track, even though this is what it's all about, going off track. But we do want to keep it distinct. We want to honor everyone's day. Even though most of you catch this later, we do want to make sure that we're keeping it tight, keeping it on topics. And we have plenty of stuff to talk about this year. So with that in mind, we hope that you will follow us on this journey, continue with us on this journey. We're only getting better. And thank you for helping us get better. And we would love your feedback on conversationality and what are the things you want to talk about, because we're open to it. We really are. Elisa and I have our own things that we like to chat about, and the community just makes us even smarter.
yeah. So, and if you're not already following Optionality, optionality.life is our URL, and that will take you to our homepage currently at Substack, and you can check out our membership tiers, and you can get to know us better. So thanks for joining us today.